This church mafia, the Antichrist, has actually been able to deceive them so that they employ curses against the chosen of God. They employ divination that has successfully manipulated the Kenyan populace to vote in a certain dimension. Look at it this way. Kenya has never voted anybody righteous. We have never voted into office anybody that is God's will. All our electioneering processes are defective, manipulative, and they are always a lie. The only leadership we have had in Kenya that, we have never had democracy. Kenyatta got it by virtue of blood. And it's because the Mau Maus shed blood. And it's because the colonial imperialists were defeated in the entire Africa. So it was time for Africa. That's how Kenyatta Senior, Jomo, came to power. No democracy. No kingship. No coronation. It was like a grabiosis. He got himself to power. So it happened that he was a bit well placed. He dies and Moi inherits. So Moi falls in because he was well placed at that time. Moi rules by autocratic means for 24 years. Kenya gets into a state where the mighty ones and the powerful ones will have their say. That is not God's. Then Moi leaves. And it doesn't just leave. The outcry and the forces of the land who were tired had Moi exit. Then Kibaki comes in. And he was the only democratically elected president in the Republic of Kenya. And he remains the only one to date. But he finishes badly because he was actually rallied into power by forces that were tired of autocracy and oppression. He enters, then his second term is a stolen term. He steals his way into power. That affords him early death and early judgment because he was not to have died at that point. That one we know. And that's where the witchcraft employed by one archbishop, which I saw in the realm of the Spirit, the Lord revealed to me. Harrison Nganga employed what is actually a spell because they feared a Luo in power. Raila was kicked out, rigged out. That vision I've shared, what I saw, that Raila actually defeated Kibaki. And I saw with my eyes in the spirit as the Lord afforded me how the elections was actually overturned. And Kibaki shamefully had to share government with the winner, who was Raila Odinga. He should have retired honorably at that moment. But the blood was shed. So you find that our Kenya's presidency rides on bloodshed, blood sacrifices against the will of God. Now, Kibaki stays on it and makes way for Uhuru to come in. Tribalism plays the major card. to retain leadership in Mount Kenya. Well, it was successful. Was it God's will? Never. These things Kenyans need to know. Otherwise, the quest for revival by those witches remains a lie that God has rejected. Because the witchcraft on Kenya's leadership started a long time ago, where covenants were cut and made that leadership must remain in Mount Kenya and will never cross River Chania. Somehow, it has succeeded. And so that's how Kibaki had leadership passed on. To who? To Uhuru. Was it democracy? Let me tell you. We know things. Why is God angry with Kenya? God is angry with Kenya because Kenyans are a foolish lot. We are deceived and we celebrate it. Deceived and celebrate it. Where does the church becomes a criminal? The church becomes a criminal because it has got spiritual mafias. Harris Onganga, number one. He is number one. Casting spells, overturning judgments, rallying prayers against the will of God for a certain selected corner. And that's how Raila Odinga was kicked, because he did not have a strong prayer force behind him. So Kenya's leadership is always for the strongest can grab it. And we find that Isaiah chapter number 3, verses number 4, is the truth that has befallen the republic. We only have babies, we only have novices, we only have children in power who understands nothing about leadership. They only understand everything about grabiosis. And the church has slumbered. The church mafia have successfully canvassed the church leadership, canvassed the church populace to rally behind what is never God's will. That one we credit Harris Onganga, Apostle Kimani. Because in the times of Uhuru, he became the darling, the blue-eyed boy. That we have heard the lives of Teresia Wairimo, Kimani Williams, and Harrison Onganga. Today they have added to the list, they have Mark Karaoke. These people appear as though they own the church. They dictate the church voice. They dictate the church direction. They dictate the church momentum. They even dictate church revival quest. We stop you in the name of Jesus Christ. Never anymore. But they successfully had Uhuru in power. Uhuru and Ruto rode into power through hate, through mistake, through fear. God never operates in fear. Whereas I also prayed for Ruto and Uhuru so that they are not hanged in the Hague. I prayed for them because I felt pain for them. But I did not pray that they be leaders. Equally, the election around that time was also stolen. Raila kicked out, and the system was bent because a bigger thief teaches the smaller thief how the system works. And there became a word synonymous today. The system, if not the system, they call it what? If it's not the system, they call it what? You know it. And so everybody wants to have the system. Having the system. So Ruto got it. Uhuru got it. And Raila, with his Mr. Clean, was cast off the road. Was blood not shed? It was shed. So a circle of satanic altars in Kenya being fed, being empowered, being fed, being empowered, being fed, being empowered, that we can never have an election without bloodshed. No matter how clean it is, persons must die. There is a force that drinks that blood. There is a force that actually capitalizes on Kenya's bloodshed for leadership. And that power is Satan's power. And Satan has mafias in Kenya's church. These mafias, if you try to pray, you try to advocate for righteousness, they curse you. They take you to court. They bend the system to have someone arrested, to have your church closed. And that is how today there are pastors that are not preaching. There are bishops that have been silenced because they tried to speak against the corruption in the church and the righteous that God is raising as an army. Those cast lots, they have been spared. They are the ones that today I am trying to pray to help them, because they are actually suffering spells of the Kenya's mafia. They are willing to be physical and they are willing to be spiritual. In matter spiritual, they employ divination, enchantment, sorcery, and witchcraft. That one, Harrison is an expert.